The Apple Vision Pro has some issues, and here's how they're being fixed.
Welcome to the All Future Podcast, where we talk about things happening in the future, in this case, the very near future or the very near past, and that is improvements to Apple Vision Pro. If this is the sort of thing you're interested in, please consider giving us a subscribe. Apple Vision, we've talked about it at length here on this podcast. Your user, there's some limitations on it. There's some fixes coming this way. What's going on?
So the first big issue that doesn't have a fix is the Apple Vision does not have night shift.
Just off the bat,
I just have to go into that because every Apple product has night shift. Maybe can you describe that a little more? You know the science behind it?
Sure, yeah. It affects your what's called your circadian rhythm. So if you see blue light, the sun's light is blue, it naturally makes you want to wake up and be awake. This is actually a technique that doctors used. We use it when I was in the military. Astronauts use it. All these things to reset your internal clock. You see blue light, and it makes you feel more awake. So I could see how if you're getting ready for bed and you strap a screen onto your face that is shooting blue light into your eyeballs, maybe not the best thing.
I don't understand because Apple has it on the devices you hold a foot away from your face, but the screens that are an inch away from your eyeballs, they don't have night shift for. My theory is maybe it has to do with they don't want to like tint your environment. And so then it's weird because the whole world in pass-through has a different color to it than you're used to.
So is that the idea? You think they want to make sure the pass-through maintains like an accurate vision of the world and not like you have on like amber sunglasses or something?
I'm going to guess that that's it. But yeah, like if I want to just lay in bed and watch a TV show right before bed, like I'm not going to really want to do it on the Apple Vision.
Right. And it seems like they're already manipulating the environment to a certain extent. I mean, they'll make it dimmer. Actually, the other side of that, too, maybe see things in the dark you weren't normally seeing, depending on where kind of the gain of the screen is at that time. Yeah. So why wouldn't they just make it a little warmer? I'm sure they've thought about it. I'm sure they have a very good reason. I can't imagine what it is.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But one way that they could have that fixed is with certain apps. And I've heard there's a web browser, like a third-party one, that does have like a night shift feature that you can turn on. So maybe third parties are going to help us with that first with some sort of alternate video player or browser where you can watch Netflix through that and it's doing it for you. But then hopefully Apple adds this in software.
Sure, and that's kind of a traditional thing with Apple is to let third-party apps fix whatever's limiting their hardware at the time and then copy whatever those third-party apps are doing.
Yeah.
Things we take for granted right now, like using the volume button as the shutter on the camera, that was originally not a feature. An
Camera
app did
Plus,
it.
right?
Yeah, Camera Plus did it. Then Apple just stole the feature. So maybe they'll steal some of these. Looking at other things that have come out, these are third parties kind of solving them. This split screen situation. When I read this seems crazy to me that this wasn't already built into the Apple Vision.
As soon as they talked about mirroring your laptop, I figured that meant you could have multiple displays up. And that seemed awesome because it's like, you have your home desk set up. If you're someone who uses multiple displays, you can just travel with a small laptop and the Apple Vision, and then you have your full setup anywhere you go. But in practice, it works really well, but it's only one display, and it gets rid of your other display. So it's not like you can look at your MacBook and then have a display. It replaces it. Apple hasn't made it so you can have multiple displays. So a third-party app is now fixing that.
This seems like almost the exact use case of why I would want a Vision Pro, right? Is that like, I'm traveling, I just have my laptop, I want to do a video edit, I want to do these things. I want to have big, giant virtual screens, right? Like that's like the selling point for some people, I think. And it's wild that that's not included, but it's interesting that, third parties, let's just fix it.
Yeah. There's one called Screen Split that I've seen in test flight. And then there's one called Split Screen that's already on the App Store that you can buy.
You can split it either way.
Yeah, I think it's actually get with in-app purchases. I don't know how the payment works on it, but I will try it this week because I'm definitely curious about that. The singular display works really well, but I'm curious how hard are these to set up and is there any lag or do they work super well without any issue?
And you were saying kind of in practice, though, maybe the multiple monitor isn't really that necessary because you can still run Vision Pro apps with the Mac marrying.
Yeah, so what you could do is you could have your Mac window here and then you could have Apple Music over here and some other app on here, and these are running on the Apple Vision, and then this is your computer, which in theory, it's taking advantage of the processing power that is on the Apple Vision with the M2 chip and everything, and then it's less taxing on your computer. Maybe it provides a better experience there, and maybe that's what Apple is going for.
Right. It almost seems like by design, maybe that's why they left out the split screen aspect of it, because they want people using the Apple Vision and in its included apps and not just make a virtual copy of your MacBook in front of you, right? So that seems to make a lot of sense. Speaking of having the M3 chip on there, more and more native Vision OS apps are coming out. Yeah, the Microsoft Office suite is fully on there now, including their AI Copilot system. Not sure if you've tried any of the productivity apps.
I've tried Apple's, but I haven't done much else outside of that on there.
Which probably you're not alone.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a lot of people are super excited to see a 40-foot tall Excel spreadsheet. But I guess if you want to now, like that's there. But also some other kind of interesting apps coming out. More collaborative apps from Box. I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's like this service. Think of it as like a combination Dropbox, Slack, collaborated workflow kind of app thing. This seems like an actual business use case for the Vision Pro and bringing it in line with, I guess, the vision of the Vision Pro itself, right? You can do these kind of 3D collaborations. What's your thought on this? Is the Vision Pro a good business tool? Is it a pro tool for professionals?
I think if you're in that space, I'm not in the 3D space, but I can imagine it's pretty great to just drop your asset in a room and look all around it and get close up. The thing we've talked about before that I think will improve it further is if you can have multiple people in a room looking at the same object. That seems like it will get there, and Apple is kind of working on those shared spaces type things. Another point on the multitasking thing and why you might not need split screen is that Apple has continuity. And it works really well on the Vision to the point where if you are using your Mac window with your trackpad and then you look over at the Apple Vision window, it moves over there. And then now I'm controlling the Apple Vision with the trackpad.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It feels like you have multiple windows. It's not like you have to be on your computer and then you have to look and pinch and everything. It's like you're just fully staying internal.
Right. And that's probably Apple's vision for this. I keep saying Apple's vision for the Vision Pro. Their wish for the Apple Vision is you don't need other stuff, right? Like you just can put this thing on. It has all the native apps you need, all the productivity apps, all the creative apps, everything is just running off of this.
Yeah.
And you don't need to pair it with a Mac for it to be useful, because otherwise it feels like it's an accessory to the Mac, which I don't think is what they really want.
Another area that it could go as well is fitness. And the Quest has kind of done that a little bit with certain apps and certain fun games that are fitnessy. But what's your immediate?
This seems crazy to me. This seems just crazy to me because of the form factor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want a big, heavy thing on my face when I'm working out, almost regardless of the type of workout I'm doing, right? I can't imagine this feeling good when it's getting covered in sweat if I'm doing cardio.
Yep.
I wouldn't really feel comfortable. And I know the pass-through is really great. I still wouldn't trust it if I'm doing like weightlifting and reps. Like, that seems kind of weird. Like,
I tried it. It was weird.
Yeah, it seems disorienting, right? Like, even like a split second of timing difference or like a spatial difference would seem really weird if you're dealing with heavy weight. You'd all of a sudden would notice it.
I tried deadlifts and I had like I was watching The Office up here and it was cool. But then, yeah, you look down and there's just that little bit of like, what if any of this is wrong? Like, this is so dangerous.
Man dies while watching The Office in AR attempting deadlifts.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just like not cool at all.
I did it like for one set and then took it off and just turned on the TV instead.
Yeah. So the current goggle stuff, the Quest or anything, this seems like not maybe the best fit for fitness. But I think there's some things in there that are cool. All the AR systems and the spatial systems and all these types of things that are built into this technology, I think has an immediate application in fitness, right? Like, if you're someone who does weightlifting and you want to get an idea of if you're having good form, if you're targeting the right muscle groups, all these types of things, an AR system would be able to figure that out for you. So I could see that technology having a good fit. And I was just wearing glasses maybe, and all of a sudden a little screen popped up as I'm working out, and it says, oh, you need to adjust your posture, adjust your positioning, whatever, and it gives you a guide to do that. That seems pretty cool. But we're talking about a theoretical application of this technology, not something that it can really currently do effectively.
Yeah, I could see, again, the vision of where this could go, because when I did that, I was watching The Office, but then I had like my training app up here with all my sets and reps that I needed to do. And then I had like an RPE calculator up here. And like, I was good.
Oh, never mind. This is cool now. At first I thought this was lame. Like
all the things I would have to pull out my phone and do throughout the workout, it's just all right there in my space. And that's very cool. But then, yeah, it was it was too weird to be using pass-through. So it would work well in a true AR system that I'm seeing the world and it's adding these things to my space.
Right. Yeah. So thinking about the workout and AR application for it, the dream of AR, right, is getting information to you when your hands are busy, right? Like that's kind of the idea, right? Like if your hands are full of heavy weight, this thing can tell you information so you don't need to put it down or figure things out. This has application, obviously, not just in working out, but just in industrial jobs and walking on the street and holding a coffee and your lunch, right? Like there's like all these ideas. That's really one of the holy grail of where this AR technology is going, is something that is light and effective and you can wear in your everyday use, and is making it so that you can get data, get information, communicate with the digital world, and still be doing stuff with your hands.
Another really cool thing we saw with the Apple Vision this week that gives it another pretty good use case is using it as a drone monitor. So when you're flying a drone, you're like looking at the screen, and then hopefully you're also looking at the drone in real space. But here someone was able to run that remote feature on their Apple Vision, and then they had that window there, and then they're also in pass-through. So they're kind of able to monitor the drone a little better, because in theory the drone's like way up there. If you were going to try to be looking at both at the same time, you'd have to like have the remote, I don't know, up here. But instead they just had the window, and then they can also be looking in their space and controlling the drone. That seems like a pretty good implementation of that for me.
Absolutely. And this is different from, you'll see people wear goggles to fly drones, and that's first person view drones, right?
Yeah.
So you're literally seeing what the drone sees as you flies. This is, you're seeing the monitor and seeing reality. Probably great for safety for drone stuff, so you don't run into a tree or whatever. And then, like you're saying, an improved ergonomics, if nothing else, for having to look down and look back up, look down, look back up.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's maybe information overload when you're using it, right? Or you're like having to glance between two things. And this is something that actually happens in military drones, right? Like, I worked with drones for a long time. There's two camera systems, right? There's one that points out the front of the drone, and then the actual targeting system, right? Like the ball kind of camera system on the bottom of it. When I was in Afghanistan, we crashed a drone because the drone started to go out of control. The pilot told the sensor operator to sling the camera toward the front so that he could see in front of him and what's going on. The sensor operator didn't do that. So the camera still pointed to the side. He thinks it's pointing out the front, and he crashes it into the desert. That shows you that when you're looking at these two different pieces of information simultaneously, it can really throw you off. And I think this is just the beginning of problems we're going to face with AR that we don't expect to face. You know, when you can see in front of you and what's happening, plus an enhanced version of that, it's really hard for whatever system in our brains figures out orientation to look at two different orientations at a time and successfully navigate. I think this is one of the things that we're going to face as we move forward with AR tech, is information overload and kind of a disorientation effect it's going to have on people.
Wow, that's a crazy story. I didn't even think about that, but that does make sense. One kind of benefit, I guess, that I saw in this person's video demonstration is that the Apple Vision handles the sun pretty well. It's like they're looking up in the sky, and it's actually able to adjust, and they can see the screen, versus if you're like looking and squinting with the drone up near the sun, and then you have to like be able to adjust back to a screen. That's really difficult, but they have both in the Apple Vision that's adjusting automatically. It seemed to do a pretty good job.
That's the kind of stuff that AR is going to do. I think it's going to be great. Like this kind of just seeing what we can't normally see, right? Either imagine you have it while you're driving, and if someone has their high beams on coming toward you, it doesn't matter, right? Because it cuts the gain on it.
Yeah.
If it's dark and at night, it switches to some kind of hybrid night vision mode so you can see further. So there's a lot of these enhancements this stuff can do. Again, though, it's going to be a learning adjustment, I feel, with it, because all of a sudden people are going to have super sight, and then they're going to overestimate their ability to handle that and how safe they're actually being while they're using it.
Definitely. So ultimately, for the Apple Vision and any of the issues that's happening, it seems like apps are going to be what fixes it. They're going to update some stuff in software for sure, but third-party apps are really what's going to improve things, fix things, and make this a worthwhile product, because we're not going to see an update on this on the hardware side for at least 18 months, if not more.
Exactly. So as per usual, Apple will get saved by developers.